Thank you. I am sorry one of my colleagues had to leave, Senator Kennedy, because I do need to address this, and I so appreciate my colleague, Senator Warner, bringing this up. You know, we can and we should be identifying waste, fraud, and abuse. I think we all agree about that, and we can do it, and we should be doing it as a Congress, but we should be doing it without giving a private, unelected citizen access to the federal Treasury payment system that contains personal information of U.S. citizens. Now, I hear my colleagues all the time invoking former President Biden for all the bad things. If he had done this, I know my colleagues would be the first to call it out, and I would be with you. I would be with you. This is such an important issue for us to stand together on, and if we don't, who will? Who will? So I am frustrated along with my colleagues on this, but let me get back to the issue at hand, because I also want to address the overdraft piece, Mr. Klein. You know, a vast majority of people who complain to the CFPB, but also to AGs, I'm a former AG, I heard this as well, about losing access to bank accounts, usually blame overdraft as the reason. Right? And we know that one of the areas of focus and enforcement around this is, if not the attorneys general, then it is the CFPB. And we know the CFPB took action to prevent illegal, punitive, expensive overdraft fees. In fact, in November, Navy Federal Credit Union agreed to refund more than $80 million to service members and their families. By the way, service members are the number one group that is always constantly taken advantage of in this area. And the credit union also paid a $15 million civil penalty for charging illegal and deceptive overdraft fees. So, Mr. Klein, you've been leading the call to end abusive overdraft practices. We've heard you today. Can you talk a little bit more about it? And it's more than just somebody, just a bad check out there, right? I heard one of my colleagues, well, they're just right, bad checks, and they should be held accountable. It's more than that. Can you talk a little bit about what we're talking here?
So it's about reordering your transactions. You swipe your debit card during the day, and maybe you run out of money at the end of the day. Well, there are banks and credit unions who go and reorder your transactions from the highest dollar amount to the lowest in order to maximize the number of overdrafts that you have. The state of New York just put out some new regulation prohibiting that practice of reordering your account. There's other things about systems of debits and credits. Look, our outdated payment system runs on this technology called a batch, which, not to bore you, but think about your washing machine. You throw everything in, you hit a button, it all comes out clean at the same time. One of the big values of real-time payments is it goes piece by piece, laundry by laundry. When you do a batch, you don't know what comes out. Well, the question becomes, when the batch is clean, do we put in your credits first, or do we take out your debits? And which order you pick, debits or credits, makes a big difference in the total quantity of overdraft. If you post your credits before you put the money into your account, right? So that's another pernicious practice that we see. And this is how you see a bank like Armed Services generate $92 of overdraft per customer relative to other national banks that are around $1, $2, $5, $10. You say to yourself, how can Armed Services Bank get $92 of overdraft per customer? It's these types of tricks and trades. And you're right, Senator, that in my research, I keep finding that you find these practices at military bases. You find these practices at places that co-locate in Walmart or seek out other things. 9% of Americans pay 80% of the overdrafts. Those are very profitable customers for certain types of banks who try to bring them through the system. And the last point I want to make, as it relates, Senator Tillis made that comment about, oh, you passed a few bad checks. Why the check bounce? Well, the check bounced because of this time delay. Other banks that have given people 48 hours to cure an overdraft have seen their overdraft numbers fall by 50%. This is some of the types of reforms that would occur if you moved to a faster payment system and you eliminated some of these checks. And sadly, the prudential regulators over the last 4 years have done nothing to stop these banks and credit unions who rely on overdraft for more than 100% of their profit. They're given safe and sound CAMEL ratings. I don't understand how their management has such a high CAMEL ratings, because all they're doing is overdrafting people. They should be a check casher, not a bank.
Thank you, Mr. Klein.
Thank you very much, Mr.